Surah 68. Al-Qalam. Context. Period of revelation. This too is one of the earliest surahs to be revealed at Mecca, and its subject matter shows that it was sent down at the time when opposition to the Prophet had grown very harsh and oppressive. The theme and subject matter. It consists of three themes: replies to the objections of the opponents, warning and admonition to them, and exhortation to the Prophet to be patient and firm. At the outset, the Prophet has been consoled.
The disbelievers call you a madman, whereas the book that you are presenting and your magnificent conduct are in themselves sufficient to refute their accusations. Soon they will know as to who was mad and who was sane. Therefore, do not be affected by them, for they are only trying to intimidate you and make you compromise with them.
Then, in order to enlighten the common people, the character of a prominent man from among the opponents,
whom the people of Mecca fully well recognized,
has been presented without naming him. At that time, the Prophet's pure and sublime conduct was before them, and every discerning eye could also see what sort of character and morals were possessed by the chiefs of Mecca, who were leading the opposition against him. Then, in verses 17 to 33, the parable of the owners of a garden has been presented, who after having been blessed by God, turned ungrateful to him, and did not heed the admonition of the best man among them when it was given them. Consequently, they were deprived of the blessing, and they realized this when all they had lay devastated. With this parable the people of Mecca have been warned to the effect: with the appointment of the Prophet to prophethood, you, O people of Mecca, too have been put to a test similar to the one to which the owners of the garden had been put. If you do not listen to him, you too will be afflicted with a punishment in the world, and the punishment of the hereafter is far greater. Then, in verses 34 to 47, the disbelievers have been admonished, in which they are addressed directly and sometimes through the Prophet. A summary of what has been said is: well-being in the hereafter belongs to those who spend their lives in the world in full consciousness of God. It is utterly against reason that the obedient servants should meet in the hereafter the same fate as the guilty. There is absolutely no basis of the disbelievers' misunderstanding that God will treat them in the manner they choose for themselves, whereas they have no guarantee for this. Those who are being called upon to bow before God in the world and they refuse to do so, would be unable to prostrate themselves on the day of resurrection even if they wanted to do so, and thus would stand disgraced and condemned. Having denied the Quran, they cannot escape divine punishment. The rain they are being given has deluded them. They think that since they are not being punished in spite of their denial, they must be on the right path, whereas they are following the path of ruin. They have no reasonable ground for opposing the messenger, for he is a preacher without any vested interest. He is not asking any reward of them for himself, and they cannot either make the claim that they know with certainty that he is not a true messenger, nor that what he says is false. In conclusion, the Prophet has been exhorted to bear with patience the hardships that you face in the way of preaching the faith till God's judgment arrives. Surah 68. Al-Qalam. In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful. Noon. By the pen, and what they inscribe, you are not, O Muhammad, by the favor of your Lord, a madman. And indeed for you is a reward uninterrupted. And indeed you are of a great moral character. So, you will see, and they will see which of you is the afflicted by a devil. Indeed your Lord is most knowing of who has gone astray from his way, and he is most knowing of the rightly guided. Then do not obey the deniers. They wish that you would soften in your position, so they would soften toward you. And do not obey every worthless, habitual swearer and scorner, going about with malicious gossip, a preventer of good, transgressing and sinful, cruel, moreover, and an illegitimate pretender, because he is a possessor of wealth and children. When our verses are recited to him, he says, legends of the former peoples. We will brand him upon the snout. Indeed we have tried them, as we tried the companions of the garden, when they swore to cut its fruit in the early morning, without making exception, so there came upon it, the garden, an affliction from your Lord, while they were asleep. And it became as though, reaped. And they called one another at morning, saying, Go early to your crop, if you would cut the fruit. So they set out, while lowering their voices, saying, There will surely not enter it today upon you any poor person. And they went early in determination, assuming themselves able. But when they saw it, they said, Indeed we are lost, rather, we have been deprived. The most moderate of them said, Did I not say to you, why do you not exalt God? They said, Exalted is our Lord. Indeed we were wrongdoers. Then they approached one another, blaming each other. They said, Oh woe to us, indeed we were transgressors. Perhaps our Lord will substitute for us one better than it. Indeed we are toward our Lord, desirous. Such is the punishment of this world. And the punishment of the hereafter is greater, if they only knew. Indeed for the righteous with their Lord, are the gardens of pleasure. Then will we treat the Muslims like the criminals? What is the matter with you? How do you judge? Or do you have a book, in which you learn that indeed for you is whatever you choose? Or do you have oaths binding upon us, extending until the day of resurrection, that indeed for you, is whatever you judge? Ask them which of them, for that claim, is responsible. Or do they have partners? Then let them bring their partners, if they should be truthful. The day the shin will be uncovered, and they are invited to prostration, but they, the disbelievers, will not be able, their eyes humbled, humiliation will cover them. And they used to be invited to prostration, while they were sound, so leave me, O Muhammad, with the matter of whoever denies this statement. The Quran, we will progressively lead them to punishment, from where they do not know, and I will give them time. Indeed my plan is firm. Or do you ask of them a payment, so they are by debt burdened down? Or have they knowledge of the unseen, so they write it down? Then be patient for the decision of your Lord, O Muhammad, and be not like the companion of the fish, Jonah, when he called out while he was distressed. If not that a favor, mercy, from his Lord overtook him, he would have been thrown onto the naked shore while he was censured. And his Lord chose him, and made him of the righteous. And indeed those who disbelieve, would almost make you slip with their eyes, looks, when they hear the message, and they say, Indeed he is mad. But it is not except a reminder to the worlds,